Don't touch me. I'm not playing wife tonight. Talia's words hit me like a slap across the face as I reached for her in our kitchen. She recoiled from my attempted hug as if I carried some contagious disease, her perfectly manicured hand pushing against my chest with genuine disgust. Good, I said, stepping back with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. You won't have to play that role much longer. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. She didn't catch the meaning behind my words. Talia never did, too busy admiring her reflection in every surface to notice the world crumbling around her. She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door, her designer heels clicking against our hardwood floors like a countdown timer. I'm going to Marcy's, she announced without looking back. Don't wait up. The door slammed with enough force to rattle the windows. I stood there for a moment, listening to her BMW roar to life in our driveway, then disappear into the Massachusetts night. 3 years of marriage, and this is what it had become. A woman who couldn't stand her husband's touch, lying about where she was going. But here's the thing about being a cybersecurity analyst. You learn to read between the digital lines, and Talia had been leaving quite a trail lately. I walked to my home office, a converted spare bedroom filled with monitors, servers, and enough surveillance equipment to make the NSA jealous. My neighbors in this post-industrial Massachusetts city probably thought I was paranoid, but in my line of work, paranoia pays the bills. Talia's phone was still synced to our home network, a little oversight she'd never bothered to fix. I pulled up the backup logs, watching 3 months of deleted messages reconstruct themselves on my screen like digital archaeology. The first message made me freeze. Can't wait to feel you again, baby. Tonight was incredible. J. The timestamp showed it was sent 20 minutes after she'd told me she was working late at the salon. I scrolled through more messages, each one a knife twist in my gut. Photos of a motorcycle, hotel room selfies, explicit messages that made it clear this wasn't some emotional affair. This was raw, physical betrayal. Jaxon Price. I recognized the name from Talia's casual mentions over the past few months. Just some guy who brings his bike to the garage next to the salon. Right. Just some guy she'd been screwing in cheap motels while I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for her lifestyle. My phone buzzed with a text from Darius, my coworker. Dude, you still coming to poker tomorrow? Mike's bringing his famous chili. I stared at the message, then at the evidence of my wife's affair glowing on my monitors. Tomorrow felt like a lifetime away. Instead of responding to Darius, I opened my laptop and began typing. First, I transferred our joint savings into my personal account, legally, since my name was on everything. Then I changed all our shared passwords, locked down our credit cards, and updated my direct deposit to go into a new account Talia didn't know about. While I worked, I researched Jaxon Price. 34 years old, owned a motorcycle repair shop on the south side of town. Single, according to his Facebook, though that was clearly a lie. His Instagram was full of bike photos and gym selfies, the kind of guy who thought leather jackets and tribal tattoos made him irresistible. But the most interesting discovery was in his relationship status. He wasn't single at all. He'd been living with a woman named Rina Martinez for 2 years. Her social media painted the picture of a devoted girlfriend who thought she was in a committed relationship. I downloaded every photo, every message, every piece of evidence of Talia and Jackson's affair. Then I did something that would have made my cybersecurity ethics professor proud. I covered my tracks completely, making it look like I'd never accessed the data at all. At 2 a.m., I sent an anonymous message to Rina Martinez with a simple subject line. Thought you should know. I attached 3 photos of Jaxon and Talia together, along with screenshots of their most damning text exchanges. Then I sat back and waited. My phone rang at 2:47 a.m. Talia's contact photo, a selfie she'd taken during our honeymoon, filled the screen. I watched it ring once, twice, 3 times before it went to voicemail. She called again immediately, then again. On the 4th call, I answered. Calvin, thank God, she breathed into the phone. I need to explain. I hung up. She called back instantly. This time, I let it ring through to voicemail. Then I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning, I drove to work through the gray streets of our fading industrial city. Bridgeport had seen better days. Empty factories dotted the landscape like tombstones, while new tech companies slowly moved into converted warehouses downtown. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business, which was about to work in my favor. My first stop wasn't the office, though. I pulled into the parking lot of Aunt May's apartment complex. May Patterson wasn't actually my aunt, just an elderly neighbor who'd appointed herself the unofficial information hub for our entire neighborhood. At 73, she had the energy of someone half her age and the curiosity of a private investigator. More importantly, she had a network of friends that stretched across the entire city. "Calvin, honey," she called from her porch as I walked up. "You're out early today. Everything all right?" "Morning, Aunt May," I said, forcing a smile. "Actually, I wanted to ask a favor. Could you keep an ear out for any job openings? I might be looking for something new soon." Her eyes lit up with interest. "Oh my, is everything stable at the tech company?" "Just being cautious," I said, lowering my voice conspiratorially. "You know how it is in this economy. Better to be prepared." She nodded sagely. "Of course, dear. I'll put the word out. Though I have to say, I'm surprised. Talia was just telling everyone how well you were doing." "When was this?" "Yesterday at the grocery store. She was buying champagne, said you two were celebrating something special." May's expression grew concerned. I hope I didn't speak out of turn. "Champagne. While I was at work, she was buying champagne to celebrate with her boyfriend. The audacity was almost impressive. No, you're fine, Aunt May. Thanks for keeping me in the loop." I left her with a gentle suggestion that maybe she'd misheard about the celebration and drove to my office. By the time I arrived, I had 17 missed calls from Talia. "Jesus, man, you look like hell," Darius said as I walked into our shared workspace. "Rough night?" Darius Chen was my closest friend at the company, a fellow analyst with a gift for reading people and a weakness for office gossip. If I was going to manage this situation properly, I'd need his help. "Talia and I are having some problems," I said, settling at my desk. "I might need to crash at your place for a few days." "Damn, really? You guys seemed solid." He rolled his chair closer, lowering his voice. "What happened?" I gave him the abbreviated version. Discovered she was cheating, confronted her. Now we were separating. I left out the part about my digital detective work and my plans for revenge. "That sucks, man. But honestly, I never liked her attitude at the company parties. She always acted like she was too good for us tech nerds." "Yeah, well, apparently she found someone more her speed." Darius's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. "Weird. My girlfriend just sent me a link to some drama on the local Facebook groups. Some woman named Rina is posting about her boyfriend cheating on her with a married woman." I kept my expression neutral. "Small world." "Says here the guy owns a motorcycle shop. Rena's asking if anyone knows a married hairstylist who drives a white BMW." Darius looked up at me. "Doesn't Talia drive a white BMW?" "Lots of people drive white BMWs," I said, but I could see the wheels turning in his head. My phone rang. Talia again. "You should probably talk to her," Darius said. "Even if you're getting divorced, you'll need to work out the details." I answered on the fourth ring. "Calvin, please don't hang up." Talia's voice was strained, desperate. "We need to talk." "Do we? Because last night you made it pretty clear you didn't want anything to do with me." "That's not... I was just stressed about work. You know how Brenda's been on everyone lately." Brenda Walsh owned the upscale salon where Talia worked. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd built her business on reputation and reliability. She also had zero tolerance for employees who brought drama to work. "Stressed about work," I repeated. "Is that what we're calling it?" "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, Talia. Look, I'm at the office. We can talk tonight." "Okay, good. I'll make dinner. I won't be home for dinner. I'm staying at Darius's place for a while." The silence stretched long enough that I thought she might have hung up. "Calvin, what's going on? You're scaring me." "I'll call you later." I hung up and immediately called Eric Morrison, a divorce attorney I'd worked with on a cybersecurity contract last year. Eric specialized in high-conflict divorces and had a reputation for playing hardball when necessary. "Calvin, good to hear from you." Eric's voice was warm but professional. "Though I'm guessing this isn't a social call. I need to discuss divorce proceedings." "Confidentially?" "Of course. Can you come in this afternoon? I have an opening at 3. After I hung up, Darius was staring at me with a mixture of concern and curiosity. "You're really doing this, aren't you?" "She made the choice, Darius. I'm just following through on the consequences." My computer chimed with a new email. The sender was listed as a concerned friend, but I recognized the IP address. It was Rina Martinez, Jackson's girlfriend. The message was brief. "Thank you for opening my eyes. That bastard is about to learn what happens when you mess with the wrong woman." I deleted the email and got back to work, but my mind was already 3 steps ahead, planning the next phase of my campaign. By lunchtime, the gossip network was in full swing. Aunt May had called 3 of her friends about my job troubles, and somehow the story had evolved into Talia and me having serious financial problems. Darius showed me the local Facebook group where Rina Martinez was now posting photos of Jackson and Talia together, asking if anyone recognized this home-wrecking hairstylist. The photos were damning. Talia and Jackson kissing outside a motel, walking hand in hand through downtown, sharing drinks at a bar I'd never been to. Each post had dozens of comments from people trying to identify the other woman. "This is getting out of hand," Darius said, scrolling through the comments. "Someone's going to recognize her soon." "Probably," I agreed, trying to sound concerned rather than satisfied. At 3 p.m., I sat in Eric Morrison's office, laying out the evidence of Talia's affair. Eric was a thin man with silver hair and the kind of sharp eyes that missed nothing. "This is quite comprehensive," he said, reviewing the printed screenshots and photos. "How did you obtain these messages?" "They were on our shared cloud storage," I lied smoothly. "Talia must have forgotten to turn off the sync feature." Eric nodded. "In Massachusetts, adultery can impact alimony decisions, though it's not as significant as in some other states. However, given that you're the primary breadwinner and she's been deceptive about her activities, we can build a strong case for a favorable settlement." "What about the house?" "Both names on the deed?" "Yes, but I made the down payment and I've been covering the mortgage. We can argue for you to retain the house, especially if she's been using marital assets to fund her extramarital activities." Eric leaned back in his chair. "How do you want to handle this? Quiet settlement, or do we go aggressive?" I thought about Talia's dismissive tone, her refusal to even let me touch her, the months of lies and deception. "Aggressive," I said. Eric smiled. "I'll draft the papers. We can have her served by the end of the week." As I left the lawyer's office, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Is this Calvin? This is Rina. We need to talk." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Coffee shop on Main Street, 1 hour." Rina Martinez was not what I'd expected. Instead of the heartbroken victim I'd imagined, she was a sharp-eyed woman in her late 20s, with the kind of controlled anger that suggested she was planning something devastating. "You're the husband," she said, sliding into the booth across from me, "and you're the girlfriend." "Ex-girlfriend as of this morning." She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo of Jackson's motorcycle, now decorated with what appeared to be pink hair dye and glitter. I may have redecorated his precious Harley before I left. Despite everything, I found myself smiling. That's one way to make a statement. "Oh, that's just the beginning," Rina said, her eyes gleaming. "See, Jackson thinks he's so smart, playing both of us. But he doesn't know that I know about his little side business." "Side business?" "He's been selling stolen motorcycle parts through his shop. Nothing major, just enough to supplement his income. I have photos, receipts, everything." She leaned forward. "I was saving it for when he inevitably screwed me over. Didn't think it would be this soon." I felt a chill of excitement. "What are you planning to do with that information?" "Well, I was thinking about sending it to the police. But then I thought, maybe I should discuss it with someone who has as much reason to hate him as I do." We spent the next hour planning. Rina had access to Jackson's apartment, his business records, and his social media accounts. More importantly, she had a network of friends who were already spreading word about his cheating across every social platform in the city. "There's something else," Rina said as we prepared to leave. "Your wife isn't the only married woman he's been seeing." "What do you mean?" "I found messages from at least 2 other women. Both married, both clients from that fancy salon where your wife works." She slid a piece of paper across the table with 2 names written on it. "Thought you might want to share this information with their husbands, too." I stared at the names. I recognized one of them, Jennifer Walsh, the salon owner, Brenda's daughter-in-law. If this got out, it wouldn't just destroy Talia's reputation, it would bring down the entire salon. "Rina," I said slowly, "I think we're going to be very good friends." As I drove home that evening, my phone rang constantly. Talia calling over and over, increasingly desperate. I let them all go to voicemail. When I finally arrived at the house, her BMW was in the driveway, and every light in the house was on. I found her in the living room, pacing like a caged animal. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "I've been calling you all day." "I told you, I'm staying at Darius's place." "Calvin, we need to talk about these rumors flying around online. Someone is posting pictures." "What kind of pictures?" She stopped pacing, her face pale. "Someone took photos of me having coffee with a friend. They're trying to make it look like something it's not." "Coffee," I repeated. "Is that what we're calling it now?" "Calvin, I swear to you, there's nothing going on. Jackson is just a friend. Don't." The word came out sharper than I'd intended. "Don't insult my intelligence by lying to my face." Talia's composure cracked. Tears started flowing, and she reached for me. "Baby, please. I made a mistake, but it didn't mean anything. I love you." I stepped away from her outstretched hands. "No, you don't. You love the lifestyle I provide. You love having someone to pay your bills while you play around with motorcycle mechanics." That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you asked about my day? When was the last time you showed any interest in my life beyond what I could buy you? She had no answer for that. I'm filing for divorce, Talia. You can stay in the house until the lawyers sort everything out, but we're done. I turned to leave, but her voice stopped me. If you do this, I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. I'll tell them how controlling you've been, how you spy on me, how you've been emotionally abusive. I turned back slowly, and she must have seen something in my expression that made her take a step backward. Go ahead, I said quietly. Tell them whatever you want, but make sure you're ready for them to hear my side of the story too. I left her standing in our living room and drove to Darius's apartment, where I spent the night planning the next phase of Talia's very public downfall. The explosion happened faster than I'd anticipated. By Thursday morning, someone in the local Facebook group had identified Talia from Rina's photos. By noon, the story had spread to every social media platform in the city. By evening, it had reached the salon. Brenda Walsh called me directly. Calvin, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Of course, Brenda. Is Talia having an affair with Jaxon Price? I let the silence stretch for a moment. Why are you asking me? Because there are photos all over the internet, and 3 of my clients have called asking if it's true. One of them canceled her appointment for tomorrow. Brenda's voice was tight with controlled anger. I've built this business on trust and discretion. If my employees are having affairs with clients' husbands or causing public scandals, it reflects on me. I can't speak to what Talia does in her free time, I said carefully, but I can tell you that we're getting divorced. I see. Another pause. Calvin, I'm sorry this is happening to you. You've always been good to her, and to us when we needed tech help with the salon systems. After she hung up, I sat in Darius's living room, watching the social media storm continue to grow. Reena had been busy, posting updates about Jackson's reaction to her departure, sharing screenshots of angry messages he'd sent her, and encouraging her friends to share the story. But the real breakthrough came when someone posted a photo of Jackson's vandalized motorcycle. The pink hair dye and glitter had been just the beginning. Overnight, someone had covered the bike in bumper stickers with messages like cheater and liar. The comments section was brutal. Dude, this is insane, Darius said, looking over my shoulder at his laptop screen. It's like watching a car accident in slow motion. My phone rang. It was Tom Bradley, one of my former friends from college who'd stayed in touch over the years. Tom had introduced me to his poker group, and we'd been playing together monthly for 3 years. Calvin, man, I just saw the stuff online about Talia. Are you okay? I've been better, I admitted. Listen, I know this is awkward timing, but I need to tell you something. The guys and I have been talking, and we think it might be better if you skip poker for a while. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. What? It's just, this whole situation is getting pretty public, and some of the guys are uncomfortable. Mike's wife saw the Facebook posts, and she's worried about drama spilling over into our group. Drama that I didn't create. I know, man, but you have to understand our position. And we've got marriages to think about, reputations. So you're kicking me out because my wife cheated on me? It's not like that. We just think it's better to let things cool down before... I hung up on him. Darius looked up from his laptop. What was that about? My poker group just uninvited me. Apparently being the victim of infidelity makes me a social liability. That's bullshit. Yeah, well, apparently that's how it works. Talia gets to screw around with whoever she wants, and I'm the one who gets ostracized. My phone buzzed with a text from Mike, another member of the poker group. Sorry about Tom's call. For what it's worth, I think you're getting a raw deal. But my wife is freaking out about the whole situation. Then another from Steve. Heard about the poker thing. That sucks, but maybe it's for the best until this blows over. And finally, from Dave. Don't take this personally, but I can't afford to get mixed up in your drama right now. I'm up for partner at my firm. I stared at the messages, feeling a cold rage building in my chest. These were supposed to be my friends. Men I'd known for years, who'd celebrated with me at my wedding, who'd borrowed money from me when times were tight. You know what? I said to Darius. Maybe it's time I stopped playing defense. I called Eric Morrison. Eric, it's Calvin. I want to move faster on the divorce. How quickly can we have her served? I can have the papers delivered tomorrow morning. Why the rush? Because I'm tired of being the victim in this story. Friday morning, I took a personal day from work and positioned myself at a coffee shop across from the salon. At 10 a.m., a process server walked through the front door. Through the large windows, I could see Talia's face go white as she read the divorce papers. Brenda appeared beside her, clearly reading over her shoulder. Even from across the street, I could see the older woman's expression harden. My phone rang 20 seconds later. Calvin, what the hell is this? Talia's voice was shaking. Divorce papers. I thought the language was pretty clear. You can't do this to me. Actually, I can, and I am. I'll fight this. I'll get half of everything, including your precious house. Good luck with that. You might want to read the papers more carefully, especially the part about adultery and the photographic evidence. The line went quiet. You've been spying on me. I've been protecting myself. There's a difference. Through the salon window, I watched Brenda gesture for Talia to follow her toward the back office. This conversation was clearly over. Calvin, please, we can work this out. I'll end things with, I'll fix this. No, Talia, you can't fix this. You can't undo months of lying and cheating. You can't take back the fact that you chose him over me every single day. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Explain to me how screwing another man in cheap motels while I worked to pay your bills was somehow not a choice. She had no answer. The papers give you 30 days to respond. I suggest you get a lawyer. I hung up and walked back to my car, feeling lighter than I had in months. But the best part of my day was still ahead of me. That evening, I drove to Mickey's Bar, a dive on the south side of town where Jackson and his friends liked to hang out. I'd never been there before, but Reena had given me a detailed layout and told me exactly where to find him on Friday nights. The bar was exactly what I'd expected. Dim lighting, sticky floors, and the kind of clientele that paid in cash and minded their own business. Jackson was at a corner table with 3 other men, all leather jackets and attitude. I ordered a beer and took a seat at the bar, close enough to hear their conversation. Telling you, man, this snake is crazy, Jackson was saying. She trashed my bike, posted all kinds of lies online, and now she's got half the city thinking I'm some kind of serial cheater. Are you? One of his friends asked, laughing. That's not the point. The point is she had no right to air our business like that. What about the married chick? She's still in the picture? Jackson glanced around the bar nervously. Keep your voice down. Her husband's some tech guy, probably loaded. Last thing I need is him getting lawyers involved. I smiled and took a sip of my beer. Besides, Jackson continued, Talia's got more class than Reena ever did. She's not going to make a scene. She's also not going to leave her husband for you, another friend pointed out. We'll see about that. I finished my beer and walked over to their table. Excuse me, I said politely. Are you Jaxon Price? He looked up, immediately suspicious. Who's asking? Calvin Rourke. I think you know my wife. The table went silent. Jackson's face went through several expressions, surprise, fear, anger, then back to fear. Look, man, I don't know what you think. I think you've been sleeping with my wife for 3 months. I think you've been taking her to the Riverside Motel every Tuesday and Thursday. I think you bought her dinner at Romano's last week while I was working late to pay for her car payment. Jackson's friends were looking between us like spectators at a tennis match. And I think, I continued, my voice still calm and conversational, that you're about to find out what happens when you mess with the wrong man's marriage. Jackson stood up, trying to use his height advantage to intimidate me. Are you threatening me? No, I'm informing you. See, unlike you, I don't make threats. I make plans. I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo, Jackson and Talia in bed together, taken from what was clearly a hidden camera. That's impossible, he breathed. Is it? You might want to check your apartment more carefully. Reena had keys, remember? And she was very motivated to help me document your activities. The color drained from his face. Now here's what's going to happen, I said, pocketing the phone. You're going to stay away from my wife. You're not going to call her, text her, or go anywhere near her. Because if you do, these photos are going to end up in some very interesting places. You can't. I can. And I will. See, I know about your little side business with the stolen motorcycle parts. I know about the other married women you've been seeing. I know about the tax evasion, the insurance fraud, and the fact that you've been lying to your parole officer about your employment status. Jackson's face went white. How do you... I'm very good at finding information. It's what I do for a living. I leaned closer. So here's the deal. You disappear from Talia's life, and I forget everything I know about yours. You don't, and I make sure the police, the IRS, and your parole officer all get very detailed reports about your activities. One of his friends started to stand up, but Jackson waved him back down. This isn't over, Jackson said, but his voice lacked conviction. Yes, it is. You just don't realize it yet. I walked out of the bar and drove home, where I found Talia sitting in our driveway in her car. She got out as I pulled up, her eyes red from crying. Calvin, please. We need to talk. No, we don't. I lost my job today. Brenda fired me because of the scandal. I felt a brief moment of sympathy, then remembered the months of lies and betrayal. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate. That's all you have to say? This is my career, my livelihood. You should have thought about that before you decided to have an affair. She followed me to the front door. Calvin, I'm begging you, don't do this. I'll do anything to fix this. I turned to face her. Anything? Yes. Then go back in time and don't cheat on me. Her face crumpled. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I felt 3 months of suppressed anger finally breaking free. Was it fair when you were screwing another man while I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for your lifestyle? Was it fair when you refused to let me touch you because you were saving yourself for him? Was it fair when you lied to my face every single day for months? I never meant for it to happen. But it did happen, over and over again. You made a choice every single time you met him, every time you lied to me, every time you came home and pretended to be my loving wife. Talia was sobbing now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no desire to comfort her. The divorce papers are final, Talia. You have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. Where am I supposed to go? I don't have any money, I don't have a job. Maybe Jackson will take you in. Oh wait, I forgot. He's not interested in anything permanent. You're just another conquest to him. I walked into the house and closed the door behind me, leaving her crying in the driveway. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Saturday morning brought the kind of gray, drizzling weather that matched my mood perfectly. I sat in my home office, watching the final pieces of my plan fall into place. The photos Rina had taken in Jackson's apartment were devastating. Not just the evidence of his affair with Talia, but documentation of his illegal activities, his other affairs, and most damning of all, text messages between him and Talia discussing how they were going to play the long game until she could divorce me and get half my assets. But the real masterstroke was what I'd discovered about the salon's client list. Talia hadn't just been having an affair, she'd been sharing confidential client information with Jackson, including which women had wealthy husbands and which ones seemed unhappy in their marriages. He'd been using her as a scout for potential targets. I compiled everything into a comprehensive dossier and sent copies to 3 people. Detective Sarah Murphy at the local police department, Agent Robert Chen at the IRS, and most importantly, to the husbands of the other 2 women Jackson had been targeting. Then I called Tom Bradley. Calvin, I'm glad you called. I've been feeling terrible about... Save it, Tom. I'm calling to let you know that you and the other guys made the right choice cutting me out of the group. What do you mean? I mean, you were right to be worried about drama. Because what's about to happen is going to be very dramatic, and you wouldn't want to be associated with me when it does. There was a long pause. Calvin, what are you planning? I'm not planning anything, Tom. I'm just letting consequences play out. I hung up and drove to the city square, where the weekly farmers market was in full swing. It was the kind of community event where everyone showed up, including most of the people who'd been following Talia's scandal online. I set up a folding table with a simple sign, Free Community Information. Then I laid out printed copies of every photo, every text message, and every piece of evidence I'd compiled over the past week. It took exactly 12 minutes for the first person to recognize Talia in the photos. Within an hour, there was a crowd around my table, and someone was live streaming the whole thing on Facebook. Brenda Walsh showed up around noon, took one look at the evidence, and immediately called someone on her phone. Based on the conversation I could overhear, she was calling a lawyer. This is about more than just an affair, she told whoever was on the other end. This is about client confidentiality, business reputation, and potentially criminal activity. Jennifer Walsh, Brenda's daughter-in-law and one of Jackson's other targets, arrived with her husband shortly after. The husband, a large man named Robert who owned a construction company, studied the photos with the kind of cold fury that suggested Jackson's problems were about to become very physical. But the real fireworks started when Talia herself showed up. She pushed through the crowd around my table, her face a mask of rage and humiliation. "How dare you!" she screamed loud enough for everyone to hear. "How dare you air our private business like this?" I looked up from my chair calmly. "Private business? You mean like the private business you've been conducting in motel rooms for the past 3 months?" The crowd murmured appreciatively. Someone was definitely still live streaming. "You're sick." Talia grabbed a handful of the printed photos and tore them up. "You're a sick, controlling freak who can't handle the fact that I don't love you anymore." "You're right," I said, standing up. "I can't handle it. That's why I'm making sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you are." "I made one mistake." "One mistake?" I pulled out my phone and started reading from the text messages. March 15th. Calvin's working late again. Come over at 8. March 22nd. He actually thinks I'm at book club. God, he's pathetic. April 3rd. Can't wait until I can take half his money and never have to see his face again. The crowd was silent now, hanging on every word. Talia's face went white. You hacked my phone? I protected myself from a liar and a cheat. There's a difference. She lunged at me then, trying to grab my phone, but two women from the crowd held her back. That's enough, one of them said firmly. You've embarrassed yourself enough for one day. As Talia was escorted away, still screaming threats and accusations, I began packing up my table. The crowd was already dispersing, but I could hear the conversation starting. Did you see those text messages? 3 months? She was planning this for 3 months? That poor man. How could she do that to him? My phone buzzed with a text from Reena. Jackson just got arrested. Apparently someone sent the police a very detailed report about his activities. Then another from Eric Morrison. Saw the live stream. Brilliant strategy. Talia's lawyer called. They want to settle quickly and quietly. And finally, one from Darius. Dude, you're trending on Twitter. Waha, justice for Calvin is actually a thing now. I drove home through the gray afternoon, feeling something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. The house was empty when I arrived. Talia had apparently taken my advice about finding somewhere else to stay. Her car was gone, along with most of her clothes and personal items. I sat in my living room, looking around at the space that was finally mine again, and realized that for the first time in 3 months, I wasn't angry anymore. My phone rang one last time. It was Tom Bradley. Calvin, I just saw what happened at the farmer's market. Jesus, man, I had no idea it was that bad. Now you do. Listen, about the poker game. We were wrong to cut you out. If you want back in, no thanks, Tom. I'm good. Are you sure? I mean, we've been friends for years. We were friends when it was convenient for you. When I needed support, you chose your reputation over our friendship. That tells me everything I need to know. I hung up and turned off my phone. Outside, the rain had stopped, and the sun was beginning to break through the clouds. I had a divorce to finalize, a house to reorganize, and a life to rebuild. But for the first time in months, I was looking forward to all of it. Talia had made her choice when she decided I wasn't worth her faithfulness. My former friends had made their choice when they decided I wasn't worth their loyalty. And I had made my choice when I decided that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's making sure everyone knows the truth. As I sat in my quiet house, watching the afternoon light stream through the windows, I realized that losing people who didn't value me wasn't a loss at all. It was freedom.